From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Well, welcome to the Library of Congress. Good morning. One more time. Good morning. The Library of Congress is the largest library in the world, and it really is. And we hope you come back many, many times, but we want one of your first visits to be to our relatively new Young Readers Center. And it specializes in folks under 16 as long as they have an adult with them. So if you want to choose an adult and bring them, we'd be really happy to have you with us, or an escort of any kind. I'm John Cole. I'm the director of something called the Center for the Book in the Library of Congress, and it's the reading promotion part of the library. This means that I love to read, as you do, and I also love to promote reading. And that's what we're going to do today. We have a wonderful event, and it celebrates lots of different things, and I don't expect you to remember all of them. And matter of fact, I had to write them down, but here they are. Did you know this is the beginning of Children's Book Week? It's the end, I'm sorry. It's Children's Book Week. The DC Public Library is launching its summer reading program with help from the Library of Congress. And moreover, in September, the Library of Congress sponsors a National Book Festival. How many of you have been to the National Book Festival? There we go, a few. That's great. Well, it's September 22nd and 23rd, and we're going to have lots of well-known authors. And this mysterious well-known author that you're going to meet in a few minutes has been to the National Book Festival for many times. All right, I'll tell you who he is. His name is Walter Dean Myers. How many people have read books from Walter Dean Myers? Great. First, however, we really want Mr. Myers and other special guests to know who you are. But I do want to introduce another special guest, three special guests actually. This lecture is called the Jonah S. Eskin Memorial Lecture. And I would like to introduce the people who've made it possible. They are Marcia and Barney Eskin and their son Lee. They had the idea of this lecture, and they have supported it every year. I'd like them to stand and receive our appreciation. And now I want the Eskins and Walter Dean Myers to know something about their audience. You are our special audience. Several DC Collaborative for Change schools are represented, and I want to locate them and hear from class members who also can wave their hands when I mention the name of the school. Now, the one I'm looking for is supposed to be easy to find. Oh, they're right in front of me, I think. Could this be the Hyde-Addison Elementary School? Now it gets tougher. Out in the audience, or I guess not in the Whitall Pavilion, which we had reserved for any overflow, we welcome the Janney Elementary School. Are you someplace? The Man Elementary School. The Maury Elementary School, the Orr Elementary School, the Smothers Elementary School, the Walker Jones Education Campus, and the Wheatley Education Campus. Only three more to go. I hope they're all here. The Deal Middle School, the Capitol Hill Day School. Well, I'm glad they were able to find us, being close by. And finally, the Thurgood Marshall Middle School. All right, that's it. adult about to speak. Quiet. I would now like to introduce Mickey Freeney, who is Coordinator of Youth Services at the District of Columbia Public Library, and she is officially going to launch the DC Public Library's summer reading program, which is called Dream Big, Read. Let's give her a hand.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the DC Public Library. I first want to thank again the Library of Congress for helping the DC Public Schools and the DC Public Library launch its summer reading. Thanks especially to Walter Dean Myers for the role he plays in encouraging kids to read and for communicating the importance of reading aloud. What an honor and a pleasure it is to be in his company. Thanks to the DC3 Collaborative, a coalition of 9 schools who are here today and who are working with the DC Public Library to show the importance of reading over the summer. And a special thanks to all the 4th graders who took all kinds of means of getting here today. They biked, they walked, some of them took 2 public transit buses, metro, and we are really happy that you took that effort to get here to be with us today. Welcome also to the middle schoolers who are in our midst today too. Greetings from the Chief Librarian of the District of Columbia Public Library, Ginny Cooper, and all of the staff. We know that the kids here today will be doing a summer reading program in their own schools, but we hope that you will also come to the public library. There are 25 of them in all areas of Washington, D.C. You can use what you do for your school's reading program to win prizes at the D.C. Public Library. So we hope that you will join our program, but you can use your information from your school to win prizes as well. Dream Big Read is for kids in elementary school. There is also a teen program, and there are flyers that you will have available in your packets, and they will give information. I will give you some very brief information today, and that is in Dream Big Read, when you read 3 books, you get a prize. For kids in elementary school, it's a book light. You can use that under the covers, when you're camping, in the car, to keep reading. If you have younger siblings, there will be a night light that they will win. You will also get activity sheets from WETA Reading Rockets that will have things that you can do related to some great books. And then when you have read 8 hours, you get a chance to win an e-reader. And there will be 25 of them, so your chances might be better than you might think. We ask that you read at least 8 hours, but if you love to read, you can read as much as you want, and we will recognize that in our little logbooks that you'll get when you join our program. All throughout the District of Columbia, there will be programs. We have singers, dancers, magicians, jugglers. There will be a bubble lady who will show you activities to do with bubbles, and she will even encase a child inside a bubble. So look for those dates at your local public library, all 25 of them. In conclusion, I want to thank, in addition to those I thanked early in my talk, the DC Public Library Foundation and the Federation of Friends, who actually give us money to run our program. We hope all of you will join. We would love to see you this summer. Last year, we only had 14,000 children join in our program, and it doesn't show what a city of readers we are. We want to show the chancellor of the schools. We want to show the mayor and the city council. And you know, the president lives right here in our city. And we'd like to show him that DC is a city that reads. So please come to the library starting next week to read for the summer. Thanks. Thank you, John.
I had to get a quick word with my collaborator here because we have so many elements in this program that I wanted to make certain I stayed on track. Now, we did invite Dr. James Billington, who is the Librarian of Congress. He was unclear whether or not he was going to be able to come here, and I can't see a thing. Dr. Billington, did you happen to slip in the back? No, I guess not. Well, you will Dr. Billington really inspired part of this program. First of all, he's given great support to the National Book Festival and to the educational parts of the National Book Festival that you see before you, which is an attempt to reach out to other parts of the city and other activities to make the National Book Festival more of a year-round event by tying it to other activities in the library. And one of Dr. Billington's ideas is actually going to be presented in a special Library of Congress knapsack that the kids are going to get when they leave today. It has information about most of these programs, but one that hasn't been mentioned is, well, Mickey was just talking about the summer reading program. There's also a summer writing program that we're going to be doing, the Library of Congress will be doing again with DC Public, and it was inspired by Dr. Billington. And here's how it's going to work in a general way with the handout in your knapsack. It's going to be for 5th and 6th graders. It won't be for everyone here, but it's going to be called, but others can think about this, it's going to be called Books That Shaped Me. One of the themes of the National Book Festival this year is Books That Shaped America. So we're asking kids and others to think about what books help shape them. And in this writing contest, which you're going to be able to enter through the branches of the DC Public Library, not unlike the summer reading program, there are going to be winners from all over the city, and the winners are going to be honored at the National Book Festival on the National Mall in a special program in September. So you can read about that in your knapsack handouts and when you get to, when you depart today. Finally, I get to present the person who brought us here today and inspired many of the programs you've already heard about them. Walter Dean Myers has written more than 100 books, both fiction and nonfiction. Can you imagine? 100 books, more than. He has won lots and lots of awards. This year and next year, he is serving as our country's National Ambassador for Young People's Literature Project. That's a fancy way of saying he promotes reading by traveling around the country for 2 years. That project is sponsored by the Center for the Book and the Children's Book Council in New York. Walter Dean Myers thinks reading is essential, and he's going to tell you why and then answer some questions. May I present Walter Dean Myers.
All right, so what has to happen, I'm going to ask you guys a question. And I'm going to ask it at the end. You can ask some questions back and forth, but you ever wake up one morning and you go out for a walk and you're kind of daydreaming and you're sort of not thinking about something, then you look around and say, oh, how did I get here? Well, that happened to me one day. You know, I came down to Washington, D.C., and I was appointed National Ambassador for Young People's Literature. Is this cool? Is this cool? Say yes. Very cool? Say yes. All right. And I get to wear it all the time. Yeah, I sleep with it. I take showers with it. No, I don't. Sometimes I take showers with it. and my wife sees it, she goes, oh, ambassador. Not. But I said to myself, how did I get here? How did I get to be national ambassador and write 100 books? What happened? I was born in Martinsburg, West Virginia, a long, long time ago, after the Civil War. I was born in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and my name was... No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. My name was Walter Milton Myers, but my mom died when I was a baby, and I was raised in a foster home. And my foster family was the Dean family, so I took their name. I was a very, very handsome young baby. I had a few bad habits. I smoked a pipe, but other than that, I was a very, very cool baby. And I was given to this family, and I was raised in Harlem, New York. Harlem, yes, Harlem was the joint. Harlem was so good. Harlem was, well, who lived in Harlem? I did. My parents did. There's a picture of my church. My church was in Harlem. My school was in Harlem. Harlem was my village, my community. And I loved it. I went to school in Harlem, and I loved going to school in Harlem. And I was an excellent student. I told all the other kids what to do all the time. I got into a few fights, one or two, never more than one or two a day. But it was a good thing. My dad could not read or write. He never learned to read or write. My mom could read how much? A little. You know my mother? She knows my mother. Right? So my mom could read a little. And my mom was the kind of person that washed everything that looked like it might need washing. She ironed everything. We used to iron the dish towels, underwear, everything. Washed, ironed. And when she finished every day, she would sit down and she would read true romance magazines. Was I interested in true romance magazines? I didn't know. Read it to me and find out. And she would read these true romance magazines, and some young lady would always look into some guy's eyes, and they would sigh, and they would go, oh. I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I liked being there with my mother. And she was cute. She was 5 feet tall. She was very small. She was 5 feet tall, and she was a nice person, and she would sit there and read to me every day. And then when she finished reading the true romance magazines, she would start making dinner. But she would read with one finger going across the page. That one finger would travel across the page, line by line by line, and I would watch that finger. That was a very nice finger she had. And I would watch that finger, and after a while, I began to recognize the words. So I could read some of the words. And by the time I was 4.5, I recognized most of the words. What was I doing? Reading. You know everything, right? This is my friend who knows everything. Okay, what's your name? What? Lauren knows everything. Okay, so I began to read. And What else did I do as a kid? No, no, no. Basketball, basketball. I played hoops, baby. You know, I climbed over the fence in the morning, in the summertime before they opened it up, and I played ball all day long. I played ball. And was I good? Excuse me. If it's my story and I'm telling it, was I good? Yes. I was good. I was a good ball player. I played baseball. We used to play something in the streets of Harlem called stoop ball. You hit the ball against the stoop, right? Was I good at that? Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Did I ever have any problems? A little. All right, so what happened? I dropped out of school at 15 years old. Why? Had a 15-year-old mind, had a 15-year-old head, and I thought that life was a little too difficult for me, so I dropped out of school. I got caught, put back into school, and the only thing I liked to do at that point was what? Wait. Yeah, what did I do? I like to play basketball most. Basketball was the important thing in my life. The next important thing in my life was baseball. And the next important thing in my life was fighting and my bicycle. Then, after all those things, came reading. After all those things came reading. And I would go to my library, the George Bruce branch of the New York City Public Library, which I loved and which I still love, and with a paper bag. And I'd take the paper bag to the library and put my books into the paper bag and bring them home. Why would I put my books into the paper bag? Because so no one would see the books. Because in my neighborhood, if you came home with books, people would say, ha, you're reading, what you reading for? You know, knock your books out your hand, and then what would you have to do? Punch them out. Hit them in there? No. I was a big kid. My stepmother was only 5 feet tall. My stepfather was only 5'6". They were little people, you know. When I was 12, I was 6 feet. I was a big kid. So people would not push me around that much. But still, I felt a little funny about reading. But I read, and I read everything. I was not allowed to read comics because my mother thought that comics were going to be a bad influence on me. But the kid next door, his mother bought him hundreds of comics, and he would throw them into the garbage. And what would I do? So I would get these books out of the garbage, and I had so many comic books under my bed that I had to get blocks of wood to make the legs go up higher. I had under my bed were hundreds and hundreds of comic books. I would pull down the covers so nobody would see. In my closet, I had my books, stacks of them. Because that's what I did. I played ball all day, and I read at night. Went to the Army on my 17th birthday. 17 years old, I decided to join the Army. Good idea? Say no. No! Oh. Okay. So now I joined the Army, and I have brothers and sisters, half brothers and sisters. There were 21 of us. Is that a big family? Yeah. And we lived all over New York City, West Virginia, Washington, D.C., California, because when my parents died, when my mom died, what happened was that we were all given to friends to raise, I guess friends. I was raised by Batman. No, it wasn't. No. We were given. So when I joined the Army, one of my brothers decided to join the Army. Good idea? No. So what happens, I'm in the Army, and they give me a gun. I kind of like that. No. I got a gun. My brother went into the Army, and he went to Vietnam, and he died. First day in Vietnam, he died. And how did that make me feel? And what else? What else? What? I caused it? All right. A little scared, angry, sad, a little guilty. Yeah, because he followed me in the Army. So now, I've done all this reading, and I would read, when I was very young, I would try to read 3 books a week or 4 books a week. Every week. And I love the books. I only read serious stuff like Robin Hood. I love Robin Hood. Because I wanted to be in Robin Hood's merry band of men. And I wanted to be, I had my own character, who I wanted to be, Little John. Because Little John was big, and I was big. And I can imagine myself being Little John. I used to practice against my sister. I could crush her, beat her every time. All right, so now I'm out of the Army. I don't know what to do with myself because I'm not that smart a person. I decided maybe I would try writing because I wrote a little bit in high school, and the teacher said, no, you can write fairly well. So I tried writing, and I decided to write for someone who is very, very much, like a high intellectual publication. So I wrote for the National Enquirer, and I wrote stories about my sisters, how they were really aliens. And I began to sell stories. Is that good? And I would get an average of $10 per story. Not a lot of money, but I felt good about myself. I also began to write stories about basketball. Why? Because I played basketball. And I began to write stories about a community called Harlem. So wait a minute. So I'm writing books about basketball because I played basketball. I'm writing about Harlem because I lived in Harlem. I write about other sports that I played. I wrote about the Vietnam War. Why? So the only thing I do is write about what I've done, right? So I don't know anything else? No. So all I do is I write about what I have done, what people around me do. Now I'm watching you. If you do anything interesting, I'll write about that. So what I do is, now, I write, let me tell you what my day begins, how my day goes. I get up every morning between 4:30 and 5 o'clock. Good? Say yes. I make coffee. I drink too much coffee. I feed my wife's little ugly cat. My wife has this little ugly cat, you know. I feed that ugly cat every morning at 5 o'clock. This morning, I was up. I fed that cat at 5 o'clock. No. Here she goes. And then I begin work. And working for me is 5 pages. I write 5 pages per day, 5 days a week. Each word has 5 letters. No, that's not. I'm getting carried away. 5 pages a day. How many pages is that a week? 25 pages a week. And how many pages is that a month, approximately? 100 pages a month. That's 1,200 pages a year. Is that a lot? Yes. That is a lot. That's what leads to 100 published books. I write more than anybody in their right mind would publish. No one's going to publish as much as I write, but I still love it. I've actually published 103 books. I've written about 125. So when I die, for years after I die, books that keep coming out. And you'll say, I thought something happened to him. But this is what I do. This is a great life. Is this a great life? Yeah, it's a great life. I'm going to go on vacation. I go to vacation in the same place every year. I live in London for 5 weeks a year. And what do I do in London? I get up every morning. That cat is not there. The cat's not there, but I make coffee, and I do my 5 pages a day, 5 days a week. Why? Because I love it. I love what I do. When I go to London, I will read 3 books a week, because this is what I enjoy doing. In my house, currently, I have 5,549 books. Books are everywhere in my house. I have them piled on the stairs going up to the 2nd floor. I have them in the bathroom, in my studio, in my dining room. Now, I'm trying to get rid of a few of them. I have 10,000 photographs. Is that a lot? Yes. You see, in some of my books, you see old photographs, and the old photographs are from my collection. I collect photographs from the years 1850 until 1940. I have 10,000 photographs, and I buy more photographs every day. So is this a cool life? Huh? All right, now I'm going to tell you one more thing, and then I'm going to open the floor for questions. This is how I do a book. I will have two things that I need for a book: an interesting character with an interesting problem. And the character I'm going to have for this story is perhaps you, because you look like a character. How old are you? You're 10 years old, and what's your name? Brian? Ryan? Okay, here's Ryan. She's 10 years old, and she has a rather a serious problem. Ryan was told to put the garbage out. And when she went to put the garbage out, there was a little spot of light on the floor. And she looked at it, and the little spot of light said, "Ryan, can we be friends?" So Ryan was a little cautious, and she said, no. She went back into the house. But at 2:30 in the morning, there was a little noise. It sounded like a bird, like a bird cheeping. And she turned the light on, and in the corner, there was this small little light, and it said again, "Ryan, could we be friends?" Now Ryan has a number of things that she can do. One of the things that she can do is to say, okay, look, this is silly. There's a little bit of light, And she takes it out. She does the number one thing she should always do. She calls it, and her dad comes in, doesn't see the light. Fathers very often don't see the light. But as soon as the father goes out, the light says, "I don't mean any harm. I just want to be your friend." What does she do now? Now she has to think of something else to do. And this is what I need to do as a writer. First I think of what I'm going to do, what is my interesting character, and it's clearly Ryan. She has an interesting problem, this little thing of light. Maybe it's from, another planet? Maybe it's just from her imagination. What is this light from? What I will do, I will walk around with my notebook, and I will come up with ideas for this little bit of light. On the way back to New York this afternoon, I'm going to be thinking about you and this little bit of light. And then, if I come up with a really interesting idea, I will then make it into a book. That sounds good? Yes? Okay. Now, after I'm ready to make it into a book, I will write out scenes. This is scene 1, this is scene 2, and I will work on that for an entire month. In the afternoons, I'm in bed at night, I will write out the scenes. So I know where I'm going to go all the time. And if I'm really, really lucky, I will then sell the book. And if Ryan wants my idea, for $2, I'll sell it to her. Okay, so you know what I do, you know what I write, you know why I write it, because it's all about my own life, some aspect of my own life. What questions would you like to ask of me? If I could see the people in the audience. No, I can't see them. Oh, here they come. Oh my God, there's so many of you. The question is, how long have I been writing?
Yes.
All right. The first thing I ever had published, it was not a very good poem, but it was in the 4th grade, Mrs. Parker. It was my 4th grade teacher. And it went like this. I know a lady, oh so fair, to me she gives such loving care. I love that lady like no other, because that lady...
My mother.
You read it? That was my first published poem. I found it. It was very disappointing to find that poem, but what can I tell you? What happened to Ryan? Well, we'll find out. I have to work that out.
How long does it usually take you to write a book?
Okay, so I look for the idea, and I come up with maybe 7 or 8 ideas. Usually they don't work out, but one that works out, it'll take me 2 or 3 days to get the idea together. I force myself to do the pre-writing. And that takes a month. Then after the month is finished, 5 pages a day. In 2 months, I have my first draft. So that's 3 months, maybe a second draft, 4 months, and then that's it. Well, 4 to 5 months. It's an easy life. Yeah, we don't know yet.
I was just wondering if me and you could like write a book. I'm trying to like get into writing the books and stuff like that. And I wonder if you can like help me, inspire me to do that.
Okay.
Not trying to sound weird or nothing.
No. What was the question again?
Never mind.
What was the question, please?
I know.
What? Okay, all right. So what? 2 years ago, a young man wrote to me, and he wanted to write a book. And I worked with him for a little over 2 years, and we published the book together. I worked with some kids in Texas, and we wrote a project together. I have a new book out now about how to write. So yeah, I'm working with more and more young people, and I can give you advice through your teacher. Sure, it's what I do.
What was the first book's name that you ever read?
What was the question?
What
The
was the
first book?
first book's name that you ever read? Wrote.
I did a book. I have one book that I did under Walter M. Myers, for Walter Milton Myers. And I did a picture book called Where Does the Day Go? And it's a picture book about these kids are asking, the father asks a bunch of kids, where does the day go at night? It's not a very good book, but I loved it because it was mine.
What's the last book you wrote? What's the last book you wrote?
Well, I hope it's not the last book. I did a book called all the right stuff, and it's about the social contract, which I hope to interpret, which I am interpreting for young people.
Who do you have act out Jeannie Had a Giggle?
What was the question?
Who did you have act out Jeannie Had a Giggle?
Okay. Somebody have-
Her question was, who acted out, if anyone acted out, Jenny had a giggle. She wanted to know if anyone acted out if Jenny had a giggle, or any of them.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever read the book Love That Dog, and did you like it?
Okay, 2 questions. Jeannie Had a Giggle. That was a poem I wrote in a book of for younger kids. And I just met a girl, a little 9-year-old, who giggled all the time. That was that book. Love That Dog was a book written by Sharon Creech, and I'm a character in the book. And Sharon wrote to me and asked me could she use me as a character. I was thrilled to death, and it was a lovely, lovely story. The other character, the other story, and the other question was, why did I write Mr. Abbott and those bloodshot eyes? In this church that I went to, many of the kids like to pull pranks. And one of the things that we did, on Sunday mornings, they used to have this record, right? And the record would play Christmas carols around Christmas time, appropriate church music. And so one day we sneaked in and changed the record and locked the door, and we thought that was great. I got hit by that.
What inspired you to write the book Scorpions?
What inspired you to write the book Scorpion?
Oh, I was playing basketball. I have 2 sons, and they're both bigger than I am. One's 6'6", and one's about 6'4". And we were playing basketball in the park, and one of the kids we used to play with stopped coming to the park. And I couldn't figure out why. What happened to this young man? I thought he just got tired of losing. If it's my story, I'm good. But what happened, I found that he had shot someone. And I was very upset with that because he was a nice young man and just something had happened wrong. And when I wonder about something, I have a problem with it, it always ends up in a book. But that's how I think about things. I think about things, I put them into books.
Who inspired you to write books?
What was the book? No one inspired me to write books. I loved reading books. I love reading books, and I love the idea of story. Now, my father, who could not read or write, never read one of my books, he liked to tell stories, and he told ghost stories. And when my grandfather came to live with us, he told Old Testament stories. He knew the Old Testament backwards. I don't think he ever read the New Testament. But he would tell you these Old Testament stories, so I did a book of Old Testament stories. So,
What's your favorite book that you wrote? What's your favorite book that you wrote?
Okay, so I have two questions. One question was, did I want to have revenge on the person that killed my brother? No. I learned more about war, and I outgrew that. The other question was, it's like, what's your favorite child? I don't like any of my kids. No. Don't tell my wife that. Don't tell her that. No. I love them all. I love them all. I don't have a favorite book.
If you had to pick, which book would you edit or like redo?
If I had to pick, what book would I do what?
Which like book would you edit to make it better?
If I had to read a book?
Which of your own books would you redo or edit?
That's the first time I've been asked that question. I did a real bad book called The Nicholas Factor. I hate that book. Oh, that's my worst book. And I wouldn't even bother rewriting it. I wouldn't even bother. It's not good enough. Oh, I hate that book. But, I don't know.
What was your favorite book when you were a kid? What was your favorite book when you were a kid?
Robin Hood. Robin Hood. Robin Hood was my favorite. And only because that was the best book ever published. It really was. You don't think so?
How long did it take to write the 5 pages?
Did you have a question? About what? Okay, I've never written a book about my wife's cats. No. The 5 pages normally takes about 2.5 hours because I know exactly where I'm going. I've thought about this. And let me tell you why I write 5 pages. I write 5 pages because at the end of the 5 pages, the typing stops, but the mind keeps going. So the typing stops, but the mind keeps going. So what happens when I finish those 5 pages, my head's already going to the next 5 pages. And so when I'm walking around shopping or what have you, I am actually writing in my head. So sometimes I can do 5 pages in an hour. Sometimes it takes 10 hours too.
Do you like writing poetry or writing books better?
I like both. I like writing poetry and I like writing novels, nonfiction. As much as I write, I can fill up my day. On the way down to Washington today, I worked on nonfiction. And on the way back, I'll probably do it longhand on the, I don't do it longhand because I always work on computer because I hate retyping stuff. Okay. I hate retyping.
Did you rewrite Jabberwocky?
Did I rewrite Jabberwocky? No, my son did. You know, one of my sons is a minister, and the other son is an artist and writer. The minister's a better ball player. The artist writer is much taller, but he's not aggressive enough. You know? And his outside shot's off. What can I tell you?
Have any of your books ever been turned into movies?
Has any of my books, actually, I just optioned the book called The Legend of Tariq to Felicia Rashad. A book was made last year into a movie called Case 219. I did a movie with Stacy Keach that was so twisted and distorted, I didn't even recognize it after that was another bad movie.
What builds your stamina?
How much what?
What builds your stamina?
How did I get established?
What builds your stamina?
I think that the stamina comes just from, I think I was born with it. No? I think I was born with it. I think that, okay, when I was a kid, when I was in the third grade, teachers said I never would sit down. And my father said, well, give him something to do. So they made me clean the boards at school. And I've been like this all of my life. I mean, all my life, I've been a busybody, running my mouth too much. Now I have it under control a little bit.
How long did it take for you to write each page?
It varies. Very often I can do a page in rhythm. You put the music on, I can type in rhythm. You know? But I can do a page, if it's an easy page, it can take 15 minutes. I've had pages which I've had to redo 15 times though. What was your question again? I write fiction, nonfiction, poetry, short stories. I write for newspapers. I write reviews.
We have time for like 3 more questions, please. Maybe one in the back.
Okay,
What is your favorite book genre?
I think I like, I'm getting to like fiction this year. Next year will be different.
How long, what is your advice for young writers?
My advice for young writers who will want to compete with me now that I'm an old man and you're going to be better than me. I like writing. Writing is good. Rewriting is good. Pre-writing, thinking about your work and doing the pre-writing is how I make a living. So pre-writing is it. There's time for one more question, and then we'll all leave. You can ask me questions outside.
How old were you when you wrote your first book?
I was 30 years old, and thank you very much. You're a great audience.
All right, everybody, you're going to need to sit down. Well, that was quite. I'm going to have him shut the door so we can conclude. That was a wonderful, wonderful experience, I think, for each of us to get so close to Walter Dean Myers and to learn what makes him tick. And I would like to thank both Walter Dean Myers, and I'd like to thank my colleagues not only at the Library of Congress but also at the DC Public Library for coming together to put together such a wonderful collaborative event. And I hope that each of you, as you go out, will remember what happened and also pick up that knapsack, which is going to be a reminder of what's happened, and try to take part in the summer reading and the summer writing program so we can work together to become a nation of readers. Thank you. Let's give one more round of applause for Mr. Myers.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.